It's about to get real for the Texans. No Joe Mixon to start the season. So, can CJ Stroud overcome starting the season without his lead back? I don't know. Lock in on today's Locked On Texans podcast.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around. My new listeners and viewers, thank you for stopping by, lending your ear or eyes. I appreciate it. For my everydayers from the Himalayas, I see you, and I see you every time y'all step into the show. I'm your Texas Credential Media member and football analyst, John Hickman. Today's episode, listen, it's going to get real for the Houston Texans, and they're going to have some tough decisions to make. Is there room for improvement? And with that room for improvement, should Houston look outside the building, maybe stay inside the building? This is where the practice squad and choosing those players wisely come into play. At the time of this recording, no moves have been made yet outside of announcing Joe Mixon, and he will start the year off on the NFI list. Setting my expectation for CJ Stroud. What does that look like, right? Is it the numbers? Is it the stats, advanced stats? For me, guys, it's a little bit deeper than that. So stick around for my expectations for CJ Stroud. We start off today's show just looking at and acknowledging a no-go for Joe to start the season. Joe Mixon will be out, but before I do that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting real. It's time to get real, and we are in the stage of covering the Houston Texans, or just looking at all of the things that they do, of understanding that Joe Mixon not being out on the field will have an impact on this offense. No doubt about it. It was announced today at the time of this recording, Monday evening, that Joe Mixon will start the season on the NFI list. What is that? Well, 4 games at least he'll be out, which I'm going to be optimistic about this. It's a blessing in disguise for Houston. This plays into the favor for the Houston Texans. And I'm going to tell you why. Joe Mixon, obviously, we hadn't heard anything clear and concise about his injury all offseason. So obviously, it was something that was lingering, and more so than lingering, just also something that was hard to get over for Joe, right? This is something significant for Joe. I don't know if it's his first significant injury or not, but this is significant. First one with the Houston Texans, right? Of course, he missed time last year, but he's starting off the year out the first 4 games. But for the Houston Texans, it was always smart not to rush it. It was always smart for Joe Mixon to take time with that injury and go through the rehab process the correct way without having to feel like he needs to be rushed back on the field. Mixon is a big part of this offense, and Houston wants him at his best. Holding him out, keeping him out rather, for 4 games is a smart thing to do. They brought in, I think that they feel like that they have some good reinforcements in Chubb, and I think they may keep DP, which I'm against, but also the young backs, and Woody Marks and Jawar Jordan and Darray the vet, who's been pretty solid for the Houston Texans throughout camp and everything. And what I think what plays into Houston's favor, though, is Nick Caley's background in New England might have prepared him for a circumstance like this, where he had to utilize multi-back sets for most of his tenure between 2015 and 2022, where the Patriots largely operated a running back by committee approach under Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. During that time span, the Patriots deployed LeGarrette Blount, James White, Deion Lewis, Rex Burkhead, former Texans legend, Sony Michel, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, each with defined roles, which can be broken down into their strengths. Power runs, early down runs, passing downs, and just a change of pace back. During that span, the Pats saw themselves ranked inside the top 10 rushing yards per game several times, averaging over 110 yards per game several times. They found a way to figure it out. This is a challenge for Caley, but his experience at other places, mainly New England, we love to just say what he's going to do from Sean McVay, right? And anybody that comes from Sean McVay, they get the attachment of Sean McVay, probably the most modern NFL offensive mind. Of course, he's also attached to the Shanahan tree. So it's easy to overlook any other stop for a coach and go directly to LA, directly to a coach being a part of Sean McVay coaching staff and him and that coach being tagged with McVay disciple. It's easy to do that. But Nick Caley talked about he's going to create the Texans offense, the ultimate Texans offense. And so because of his experience with New England and, of course, LA as well, and that's been a talking point for us throughout the summer as well since his arrival. Like, we cannot overlook what we potentially may see to combat Joe Mixon not being out on the field because, listen, Nick Caley's been around. He's been around. And he understands what it takes to put the best players that you have available on a field. You can't always expect player A to do what player B does or player C to do what player A does. You got to find out what works best for each player. And I think it's the same thing for the running back group. Not an ideal start for a first regular season play caller for Nick Caley, but look at it like this. Is their trust in the backs in the room to manage collectively an average of 4 yards per carry while Joe Mixon is out? Or can they supplement that by being an impactful pass catcher out of the backfield? Based on what I've seen in camp and preseason, I would say their answer is yes, as long as the offensive line is being productive. The backs are capable. I wouldn't rule out Houston scouting the market for running back upgrades. I am not sold on DP at this point. I don't think he's done enough in the last 2 years. No matter what they say, he hasn't done enough. He has that home run hitting ability, no doubt about it. He needs those touches. But as of right now, he is not one of the 4 best backs. To me, it'll be Marks, Chubb, Dare, Jordan, with Jakob Johnson making this team as the fullback. Do I think Houston would just completely implode on themselves without Joe Mixon? No, I don't. I don't think they'll hit their full potential either, of course, with one of their best players being out, but they'll be able to manage. Plus, an added bonus will be, if this thing goes well for Houston, they'll be able to set the table for Joe Mixon to not have to be Superman once he returns. Joe was second among qualifying backs with a 23.7 stuff rate in 2024. Y'all know what that is, right? Stuff rate. Hit at or behind the line of scrimmage. Joe is second in that category for qualifying running backs. He needs a break. He absolutely needs a break. His body needs a break. And he needs for things to be easier for him. I've been an advocate of just the Houston Texans making sure that they have the running back depth to ease the carries, especially earlier in the season for Joe. So he needed that break. Houston is in a spot right now where they must maximize the backs currently available to ease Joe back into the fold so he's fresh and ready to go late in November through January and hopefully for the Houston Texans eyeing a championship in the early part of February. That said, Houston will have to open the season leaning on one of the some of the guys that's been in the building since day one of OTAs, but all of those guys will have to lean on CJ Stroud. What are my expectations for Stroud in 2025? Stick around and find out here on the Locked On Texans podcast. August 26th is officially FanDuel's Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even gets here, this is your moment. So for me, I talk about CJ Stroud having the ability to maybe win the MVP. Quarterbacks, that's a quarterback award. This is a quarterback's league. I understand that. So I want to take a trip to another division. Patrick Mahomes may take it real personal this season. Have we written off the Chiefs? The offense was down. They won games because of their stout defense. The last time we saw Pat Mahomes, the game didn't end how he wanted it to end, right? I'm sure Pat Mahomes is going to take it seriously this year about getting back to business, which could make for a good MVP pick. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because future day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Locked On Texan fans, I need a favor from you guys, right? And I think you can do it for me. What is that favor? We have a very important request. Locked On wants to hear from you, whether you're first-time listener or an everydayer. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, answer questions about our advertising as well. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So I want to see one of my Texan listeners holding one of those gift cards up in the picture all through social media. To do that, visit lockedon.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes as well. Thanks for helping us out. Now we are back to business. And keep in mind, Texas fans, with the cut date here, right, each team can carry 16 players on its practice squad with the option for a 17th slot to stay open if that designated player is an international player pathway in that program. Teams may designate 4 practice squad players per week as protected, preventing other teams from signing them during that time frame. For Houston, I wonder if that'll be one of those running backs, maybe Jordan, maybe Brooks, or one of those wide receivers who they recently signed. They got a good look at them in the preseason game this past Saturday. Cornell Powell, Quintez Cephas, who spent time with the Houston Texans last season, Jawan Freeman. Will they look to maybe protect one of those players? Plus, I'm eager to see if Houston elects to make Irv Smith a protected practice squad player as well. He's had a very good camp for the Houston Texans. But the man who can take Houston to the promised land, CJ Stroud. Big year for Stroud. A lot of expectations, some too big and unrealistic, but for the most part, they've been spot on and I think fair. Here on the Locked On Texans podcast, I keep it real. From a number standpoint, I want to see 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. 4,000 yards is not hard. He did it his rookie year, threw for 4,100 yards, right? I think with a competent red zone play caller, we should see CJ Stroud get to that 30 touchdown number. I want to see that personally. When you start getting to the 30 touchdowns per season conversation, you're really looking at a dangerous quarterback, right, who can just put points on the board. We're not able to do that in 2024. Was able to do it the year prior, but has not reached 30. I want to see it. I think it's fair. But I'm going to go deeper than numbers here. You guys know numbers and stats can hurt your perception as well as help the perception. Case in point, the numbers showed a sophomore slump, but we know that that wasn't the full story. It isn't the full story. The full story for Stroud this year is being a good steward of what he's asked for, and that is this type of offense specifically. Here from CJ Stroud just under a year ago.
We're playing our brand of football, man. We're just because you get 2-3 and out doesn't mean you're having a bad day. I respect what you're saying. I understand. But just because you go tempo don't mean like things just start rolling. Like we tried that weeks prior and we're just getting shells, So, but I do understand where you're coming from. I think, we can, get more of a tempo and get going a little more. And then not even just staying no huddle, really just getting out the huddle, breaking the huddle the right way. All the elite teams I ever watched growing up, Patriots, I watched Stafford a lot with the Rams. I can go so on and so forth. Man, you watch it on TV as a kid, you see how quick they break from the huddle when they get on the line of scrimmage, and the defense feels that. And now you get an opportunity to read the defense a little more, and I think that's where we can take the next level and get better at. But, yeah, I definitely do think we came out a little short.
That was CJ Stroud under a year ago talking about the type of offense that he's watched growing up, some of the better offenses. And it sounded like CJ had been lobbying for Nick Caley since then, right? Mentioned both the Patriots and the Rams. And that's funny. Nick Caley, both Patriots and the Ram background. So, but that's what I'm looking for from CJ Stroud this year. For me, it's all about the command of the offense. A lot of last year's bad moments, we've come to find out and learn that most of it could have been solved if CJ Stroud had more control at the line of scrimmage. And Houston's brain trust recognized that, moved on from Slug, brought in an OC who has been with quarterbacks that actually run the offense. Houston bet on the ability of CJ Stroud to mentally take what the new OC is going to ask of him, process and perform at a high level, and speed up this timeline of success for the Houston Texans. Also, an improvement in the mechanic department is what I'm looking for from CJ Stroud. Again, the numbers matter, stats matter. That's why I wanted to lead with it. But it isn't the full story of what success looks like for this young quarterback. And what my expectation is for a quarterback that I think can be literally a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, can make every throw, right? A tough quarterback. When you talk about CJ Stroud getting hit the amount of times in 2024, understand that 80 of those pressures were unblocked. A ton of sacks, second in the league, ton of pressures. I think first in the league in pressures, ton of QB hits, but he kept getting up. So, again, you lead with stats, you get into the deeper part of it, but mechanically, 80 unblocked pressures will throw off your mechanics. I think it's cool to stand in the pocket to deliver a throw when you have to, but doing it every drop back ain't fun. So I get that. However, there were too many moments for my liking, especially towards the end of last season, when a pass would just sail over a receiver's head, or those dreadful layup throws like the one to Tank Dell against Detroit. The hope is having a solid offensive line limits the pressures, limits the hits and sacks on CJ Stroud, helping Stroud to stay upright throughout the season to where his mechanics are not jeopardized. So that I'm mainly looking at the command of this offense, because this is year one in an offense that the ceiling, I'm going to say it, Patriot background, Rams background, the ceiling is a Super Bowl winning championship offense. That's the ceiling. The ceiling is a Matthew Stafford or Tom Brady. That's the ceiling. I'm not even going to look at the floor. The ceiling is 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, one of those quarterbacks, the greatest to ever do it. So if he can master this offense, tough task to do with no Joe Mixon for the first 4 weeks, and that may even be a little bit longer, who knows, then understand that the foundation that was broken down and had to be rebuilt this year quickly may be a little bit more sturdier. And if it's sturdier, then that foundation is a little bit more trustworthy. If it's trustworthy, then you got something special here in Houston with CJ Stroud and Nick Caley. And, of course, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk when Tank Dell comes back, Dalton Schultz, the rookies, Higgins and Noel, the weapons at his disposal. It's all about knowing when and when not to. Who and who not to in certain situations. And I think if CJ Stroud can grasp that, which I have no doubt that he will, and I think he will do it, there's a different quarterback. I think he's a more dangerous quarterback. He's a gamer. I think he's cerebral. He's not one of those physical gifted quarterbacks. And he even made fun of himself at times. Like when he picked up that 30-yard run in the playoffs, he said my slow 40, it did look like north of 4.9, but that'd be better than what I ever ran. And most of every human listening, right? But he's not a physically gifted quarterback in terms of stature or speed. It's all up top for CJ Stroud. And having to relearn and revamp is a little tough on a young quarterback. Because most of these quarterbacks in year 10, by the time they get a new offensive coordinator, they know what they have to do. They know what the expectation is, and they can run an offense or a practice by themselves. This is year 3 for that young man. If he gets it right, Texan fans, you got a good problem on your hands. Now we got to look at room for improvement for the Houston Texans, as this is a major cut down day throughout the NFL. Should the Houston Texans look outside of their roster, outside of their building, to make sure that they have all of their I's dotted and their T's crossed? More Locked On Texans to close out today's show. Got to shout out the guys that came over to Bonchon's this past Sunday. We got together, did our fantasy draft, and I'm gonna tell you, man, I'm pretty satisfied with my team. 2 leagues that I'm hosting with some great listeners, great Locked On Texas listeners. CJ Stroud is my quarterback in one of those leagues. I did that just for the home team. St. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brees Hall, Brock Bowers. I got some great talent. And everything was hosted on Yahoo Fantasy. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. NFL season is around the corner. You can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, building their championship squads. If you haven't joined the league yet, now is the time. It's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. I'm going to tell you what I liked about Yahoo Fantasy. It was easy. It was easy. We also added some defensive players. So I got Roquan Smith and TJ Edwards. Got the option to do that. And this year, playing on Yahoo Fantasy, not just for the classics, but they also have the brand new Guillotine Leagues. So they got it all. They got different new features over there. Season's kicking off on September 4th. And again, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many ways to compete and have fun. You want more ways to play? Try the brand new, again, Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League, where the lowest scored team gets eliminated weekly until there's one team left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew, no problem. Join a public league. The NFL season kickoff is September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. I want you guys to hear from D'Amico Ryans on the makeup of a 53-man roster for the Texans.
As we go through our roster discussions, the decisions, there was a lot of discussions that happen, weekly. And as guys are continue to progress and get better in camp, you start to move guys around, give guys more opportunities. You want to see guys more. So it's not just one day type of deal. Like, it's been ongoing for the past several weeks. And as the process continues to takes place over the next day or so, there's still some final spots that we're trying to identify and trying to make, the best decisions for our team. The one thing I will say is this is it's tough this year, probably the toughest that it has been for myself, because I feel like our team is a very competitive team. We got a lot of really great depth, a lot of great guys that you want to keep around. And most of the discussions lie in, man, how can you try to keep as many guys as possible? Not who are you getting rid of, but how can you keep, these guys around? That's the tough part about it. It's trying to keep more, not per se who you're getting rid of.
John.
That was D'Amico Ryan speaking about the tough decisions to make when it comes to the 53-man roster and everything that comes with that. Just to give you guys some updates, Texan safety Jimmy Ward is dealing with some legal issues right now, remains on the active PUP list and not ready to return to practice yet after offseason foot surgery per Aaron Wilson. Danico Autry is healthy per Aaron Wilson, dealt with a knee injury. And Aaron Wilson also tweeted whether the team chooses to activate him at this time after missing the entire preseason is undetermined. And with Blake Fisher nursing an ankle injury, tackle Trent Brown, former Pro Bowler, is moving well, close to return. This is also per Aaron Wilson. So you're looking at some important key guys for Houston in 2024, not being able to start the year off with Houston. For Danico Autry, I think this is the same song as last year. I kind of wonder, where does Houston view Danico compared to maybe some of the other guys that's just been here, that's been working out, that's been around the team, that's just been a part of what they've been building. Not to say Danico hasn't been physically, but he hasn't been out on the field, which matters. And then with Jimmy Ward, in his case, again, that's something totally different. Outside of football, time clock does feel like it's ticking on how long Jimmy Ward will be in Houston. Trent Brown is a player that you guys heard me talk about. Hey, if he's healthy, he comes into this team the best right tackle due to his NFL time, if he's healthy. But he hasn't been healthy, but he has been working out, trying to get closer to a period where he's healthy enough to be activated to the regular season roster. Now, looking at room for improvement, okay, those positions that I just named, two of those three, look at Jimmy Ward, safety for the Houston Texans, who had some rough moments in 2024. Of course, age is getting up there on him, right? But the safety position, it's going to be Kalen Bullock. It's going to be MJ Stewart. After that, does Houston trust Russ East enough? They've been playing with Miles Bryant, putting him back at safety, also putting Jalen Petrie back deep as well as safety. I think that's very interesting because you have Jalen Petrie, you have Jalen Smith, you also have Miles Bryant. I'm going to throw Kamari Lassiter name in that mix as well because Houston can now have some interchangeable pieces, outside corner, inside corner, nickel corner, back deep. They got some pieces that I can't wait to see how does Matt Burke and D'Amico Ryans combine their think tanks to figure out what works best for them to start off the year with some of those guys not being available, including rookie safety Jalen Reed, who was having a damn good camp. I think tackle is going to be okay for right now. I don't think that's going to be a big issue, though. Trent Brown and Blake Fisher are right tackles. Cam Robinson is a left tackle who I've heard and spoke with people around the league saying you don't want him to play right tackle. So he is a left tackle that needs to stay a left tackle. Better hope that Titus Howard is going to be good for a good amount of time and won't suffer injury. For the Houston Texans, I do think that it would bode well for them to just keep their eyes open. Just keep their eyes open, keep their ear to the streets to figure out or to have conversations with other team execs or just to see who's going to be cut, to see who's available that maybe that they've had conversations with in the past, have a relationship with the agent, can do some of the things that they're asking of them. It will still be running back and safety for me. I think every other position is set for the Houston Texans. I think the depth is there for every other position. Quarterback, I think for the most part, offensive line, wide receiver, is set. That depth is pretty good. D-line depth is good. Linebacker depth is good. But it goes to running back, the uncertainty of when you'll get Joe Mixon back. Does DP give you anything? And we haven't seen enough of that to say yes definitively. And of course, a lot of people have fears of putting a rookie running back out on the field to be somewhat of a savior for a room, though we've seen rookie running backs come into the NFL and have good moments for teams in the past, right? So we have to see, but there is room for improvement for the Houston Texans, guys. And I think what works in Houston's favor is they have a little bit of money to give them the flexibility. Now, Houston is a loyal franchise and organization. Some of these guys that we will see, like those later cuts, gotta get cut down, I think, at 4 o'clock. So those cuts that start happening at 3:30, 3:40, pretty sure a lot of those guys will come back on the practice squad. Houston likes the guys that they have in the building. Maybe not necessarily due to the personal relationship of things, which that matters and plays a factor, but more so they like trusting guys that they've seen. They like trusting guys that they've been able to put in certain situations and see their players succeed and thrive in. They like that. So, again, Houston will have some money to create flexibility for themselves. And I'm of the belief that, hey, early bye week this year for Houston, week 6, once you get to that point of the year for you early on, you'll have a good understanding of what this team is and isn't, what they can and can't do. maybe then you'll start to see Houston name kind of come up, and maybe they look for an outside player via trade or maybe a free agent still waiting for a chance and opportunity. Who knows? But I can see Houston just keeping guys on their practice squad that they really like because of they've been here. They value being here. They value bodies being in the building and being active bodies in the building. So it wouldn't shock me at all. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12 as well. Until next time, ladies and gents, peace.